welcome along to the Sporting Life Time Form Weekend Best Bets. David Ord, joined in a throwback to yesteryear by Ben Linfoot and Richard Mann. Ben Linfoot, because you're in the value bet hot seat for the first time since about 2018. Excited to be back in it?
Yeah, Matt's on holiday, so happy to step into the old shoes and try and dig out a few big price selections anyway. Maybe not winners, but we shall see.
It's what you were famous for in the day. And Rich Mann, that shirt has been worn for the first time since the COVID. This is true, isn't it? Since the COVID pandemic.
Yeah, he's back, the trusty old blue. I didn't realise we were clashing though, so I do apologise.
No, it's nice to be smart. Well, let's get on with the action. It's the weekend best bet. Let's be honest, we can't pretend everything's rosy in the garden. This isn't York, this isn't Sky Bet Ebor Day, and how disappointing the two feature races at Goodwood, the two pattern races, a combined total of 9 runners, symptomatic of everything that's wrong at the moment with the top flight action races, how thin we are in that top tier over here. The fixture list announced for 2023, no significant changes there. Be interesting to see how this pans out, but it's quite thin fare that we're going to go through, but it's still relatively interesting racing. Let's talk with the William Hill Celebration Mile. That's first up. It's a 5-runner race. It's a Group 2 contest. We've got the time form ratings on there, Ben. Mutasabek dominates the market, but not necessarily the ratings.
Yeah, and I can't wait for this race, Dave, after you've set it up so beautifully there.
Do you know what I mean, though? This Celebration Mile used to have Guineas seconds and thirds running and Queen Anne winners teeing up for the autumn, and it just...
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a weak renewal. It's a weak Group 2, isn't it? And winnable. And you think if some trainers had the chance again, they would enter, you know, their 100 plus rated mile horses in this race, because it's there to be won. And Mutasabek, he does top the ratings, understandably so. He has got the best form in the race. Even this season, when you look at his second to Chindit Ascot in the Summer Mile last time, I think he is probably the one to beat, but he is a vulnerable favourite because he's been beaten on his last 3 starts. He was a poor 8th really in this race last year, in what was only really a slightly better renewal when Lavender's Blue won. So he has got questions to answer, and he is a very short price. So in what could be a tactical race, I'd be happy to take him on, I think.
It's interesting, he's gone from he was about 8 to 11 through the week. He's actually odds against as we record this on Friday afternoon. You mentioned the potential tactical nature of it. Let's get the pace map up on screen to discuss. Rich, how do you see this playing out, and who's going to be advantaged by the setup?
Well, I think Finest Sound will probably be prominent. He ran really well at York last time, winner at Thirsk before that. I could definitely see him going forward. And I think the interesting one, and looking at that map, he may well make the running, is Jadumi, a winner in France last time. He's not had a lot of racing, this fella, but what we've seen of him has been pretty good. He was 3rd in a Grade 1 at Saint-Cloud as a 2-year-old. We only saw him once last year, but then came back, won at France. And the Crisfords, they're in flying form at the moment, going at 35% in the last couple of weeks. William Buick booked, and this fella stays further as well, so I think Buick will try and make this a test. As for the favourite, Ascot last time, he quickened up past Shindit, looked like he was going to win easily, was out-battled. I suspect the tactics from Buick on Jadumi will be try and do something similar, get him into a fight and try and beat him.
Ben, quick line on Escobar. Well, I saw him running a screaming the Clipper Logistics at York. Look at that pace map set up there. This is going to be a completely different test for him.
Yeah, I think Escobar is at his best when he's in that big field handicap, big field environment, isn't he? He likes coming through horses off the pace. Ran a cracker at York off a mark of 105. You just wonder if this race is going to set up for him a potentially weak gallop, a small field. Is he going to be able to come through with a winning run? He won't mind the cut in the ground. I think that's absolutely fine for him. But the way this might pan out could be against him. And I like Finest Sound here. He is backing up. Just a week on from his really good run at York, where he was just overhauled by Alflaila in the final furlong, but that was obviously over 9 furlongs. I think the step back to a mile's in his favour. It's just a case of whether he can back up, but the cheap pieces have turned this horse around. I think he's really focused now, and he's thriving, and for me he represents a little bit of value in the race at around 15 to 2, 7 to 1.
Rich, tip?
I'll go for Jadumi.
I do think Mutasabek is vulnerable off the bridle. I'm not 100% certain I'll take him off the bridle in this. I think this could be teed up to perfection for the favourite, but the market tells you that. We need to touch on the March Stakes. I'm going to come to you first, Rich. Only 4 runners. It's often seen as like the last St Ledger trial. It might be a significant one. We've got Hu Yamal in here, the Derby second, 3rd in the Gordon Stakes at Goodwood. He's 1-4. What can he do on Saturday to advertise his claims or justify his £1 million purchase price?
Well, on ratings, he should win easily, shouldn't he? I'm just not too sure. Loads of place form in there. Obviously won the Cornivial as a 2-year-old. He's a very smart horse. But I'm not sure this is the penalty kick that the odds of 1-4 would suggest. I know the ratings would say that. But I'm just not sure. I thought Perfect Alibi was a really stern challenger, to be honest. Won well at Newbury. Really tough performance from her that day. She beat River of Stars, since won a listed race at Chester. All right, bit of a blowout. Ascot and then back on track at Newbury last time. I hope it's not just the Newbury factor with her, but I think she's tough. The Aggies team keep rolling. At 4-1, I think I'd prefer to play her.
Interesting take there. A bet in the Marsh Stakes. Ben, you've got a stat for us about the Marsh Stakes, or a fact, should I say, rather than a stat?
Well, I just wonder if the race planners are regretting turning this into a 3-year-old only contest, because five years ago it was the last renewal when it was open to older horses. It was 3-year-old plus, and the last 5 renewals of it, when it was open to older horses, they had field sizes of 5, 7, 8, 6 and 7, and since it was 3-year-olds only, it's 5, 3, 5, 4 and 5, and then 4 again this year, with 64 and 84 rated horses in there, because we're struggling to find the 3-year-olds to fill this race. And I just wonder, you know, if it was open to 3-year-old plus and you had a few older horses in there, you're talking about an 8-runner race. It's a much better spectacle, isn't it, for a Saturday afternoon on ITV? So I just wonder if that was a mistake, changing this to 3-year-old only. Matt Johnston has dominated the race in recent years, hasn't he, and hasn't got a runner this year. And we're looking at Huya Mal for George Bowie, who's 1-4, rated 116. It would be a pretty seismic shock if he got beat, but he is a horse that finds it difficult to win. So it's a real tricky one for punters. That would definitely be a no-bet race for me.
Now, you mentioned the ITV cameras. They're at Beverley on Saturday, one of our local tracks and your actual local track, Rich. What can we expect to see from there?
Yeah, great to see Beverley on ITV again. This is a lovely track. I think for punters, once a year, punters, first time they'll have seen Beverley since the Bullet last year. Got to remember, on the round course, if you're betting through the card, you want to be drawn low. It suits prominent races. It's really hard to make up ground wide on the bends. I mean, we're not talking Chester here, but it is pretty tight round there. And on the sprint track, obviously the Bullet run on the sprint track, again, low, quick horses, prominent races suit. There's a little bit of camber towards the stands rail, so it is hard to come wide and make up ground unless it's really soft ground, and then they tend to come over there anyway. But that won't be the case on Saturday, so drawn low, quick horses that like to get on with it is a way to go.
It's a stiff climb to the line as well, isn't it? You need to hit that line at Beverley. It's fantastic race course. Right, the Bullet, we've touched upon that. That's the big race, a really competitive sprint as well. Tis Marvellous is back, trying to win it for the second year in succession. Ben, can he?
He can, and I think this is a perfect race for him. He was unlucky in the race, I think the year before he won it, when he found trouble in running and finished 3rd, and then obviously had a good draw last year, got a lovely toe into the race from Just Another Bottle, and saw it out nicely, putting clear daylight between his rivals. So he's top rated on 126, as you can see there. The thing with Tis Marvellous is he has not been at his best this season. He's had a couple of runs down the field in the Palace House, down the field again in the King's Stand at Royal Ascot. Look, they were 2 tough races. This is a drop in class for him, but he was coming into the race in much better form last year, and he was twice the price. So I just think that all the value is squeezed out of him at around 7-2, and I'll be looking elsewhere. Listening to what Rich has said, I do quite like King of Stars for Mick Appleby. He's drawn in 9, but I think he can probably get across to that rail. He's really quick out of the gates, this horse, and I'd expect him to race prominently under Alistair Rawlinson. He ran an absolute belter at York last time when he was drawn on the stand side in the race run by Bergerac at the Ebor Festival, and he was only beaten a short head in a photo finish. He did drift left that day, but he was under the Sylvester de Souza drive in the middle of the track, marooned, with sort of out on his own with nowhere to go. I think if he's at Beverley and he's on that rail, he might be able to stay straight and true, and if he does, it could be tough to reel in, because he's a speedy horse who's thriving and in form, and there isn't too many of that type in this contest, so he'll do for me at double figure prices.
One for Scub at double figure price there. It's going to get the pace map up, because they've talked about this at Beverley. It could be a bit draw dependent, although this is the straight course. How does that sort of factor into your equations, this pace map?
Well, it does. One I quite like, I think he'll definitely go forward, is Motagali. He might not make the running, but formerly with Charles Hills, first start for Scott Dixon. Look, it's a real layoff he's got to overcome, 320 days, but he had some smart form for Scott Dixon, and we've seen him do well with his type before. So I think he'll go forward. Tis Marvellous will have to go forward, do you think, Ben, from that draw 7? He's got no option. I think he'll try and be positive on him.
Well, last year he just got the perfect toe from a similar draw. I think he was drawn in 6th last year, and he just got a lovely toe into it. And I think that's what Paul Hannigan will be hoping for again this year.
Yeah, I'm not sure it'll be run at breakneck speed this year, but I think there'll be enough pace on, and that if they went really hard, might tee up Mondamege for Anthony Britton. He likes a quick 5 and to come off a strong gallop. Beverley's not ideal for him, but if they did go hard and the pace collapsed, he could be interesting.
It can all change in the last 100 yards at Beverley,
Yes.
can't it?
You can build momentum.
You've got a chance, haven't you?
Yeah. I once dropped my tie at Beverley doing a walk of the course, and the groundsman called me back, and I jogged back to collect it at the 2 furlong pole and tried to jog back to Michael Shinner's at the finishing part. I didn't get home. I was a complete non-stayer up that hill at Beverley.
I think the jogging part's the only fictional part of that story.
Well, I walk briskly.
And another one, if the pace collapses as well, is existent. We must mention him. I think he's second in on time form ratings. Class act, this horse, done really well for Stuart Williams, but he's another who likes to come off a breakneck gallop. If they go hard, and he's drawn low existent as well, Callum Shepherd might be able to weave his way through. It's a fascinating renewal. It maybe isn't top-notch quality-wise, but I mean, there's loads of potential angles in here.
Got to have a competitive race. Best bet on Saturday from elsewhere. Have you got anything, chaps? Rich?
I'll go the XO for John Ryan in the 135 at Newmarket. Not been seen since the spring when second on debut at Lingfield. Form's worked out really well. Son of Zoff, and he won't mind the soft ground at HQ.
Ben?
Ascot Adventure for me, Dave, in the 2.25 at Goodwood, 7 furlong handicap. Really liked his run last time at Doncaster, where travelled well, looked like he might win with a furlong to go, but was just run out of it in the finish. 2 of the horses from that race that finished just in front of him, Fresh Hope and Alreb, were first and second at Newcastle in the Racing League just on Thursday. So that form has been franked, and he looks well treated to me. He won't mind the cut in the ground, and Clive Cox has won this race a couple of times before. So Ascot Adventure in the 2.25 at Goodwood.
And it's Secret Shadow in the last at Goodwood for me. Filly I know Ben likes her. Well, Andrew Balding's been desperate for soft ground. She's finally got it. I think she's handicapped to get back to winning ways in the last at Goodwood under Hayley Turner. Thanks to Rich. Thanks to Ben. They're their thoughts on Saturday's big race action. And best of luck with your own weekend wagers.